Dive, headlock. Headlock, dive. Sure, we were about due for another wrestling fan civil war. 1 week ago, OVW trainer Rip Rogers tweeted out a block of text that jokingly paraphrased seemingly every indie match these days. The point he was making was all these crazy high spots that wrestlers are doing today mean nothing because they're done too early and too much. Since then, wrestlers and fans everywhere have offered their 2 cents on the matter. For example, Will Ospreay, one of the standard bearers of today's super indie style, even put out a shirt to let you know what side of the fence he's on. To me, this is just another iteration of the old-timers versus new generation battle we've been having for what feels like forever. I mean, just last year, Ospreay and Ricochet had their big Super Junior fight in Japan that went viral. A big debate over that solved nothing. And like a case of herpes, the debate comes raging back once again. Some people argue that kids these days are killing the business and things need to go back to the basics, while others argue that the high-speed, high-impact style of wrestling today is the way of the future. So go back to your retirement home, old man. A lot of you have asked me where I fall in this debate, and here's my thoughts on the matter. I think that big high spots can be awesome and can really add to the excitement of a match. I don't believe that saying your team headlock means that no one can leave their feet anymore and everyone has to go back to the 1970s. However, I do believe that what we're seeing in wrestling today, not just in the indies but in WWE as well, is highly favoring flash over substance and often to the detriment of the business. A lot of wrestlers, especially those who are new to the business, look at what WWE and New Japan are doing and think the only way to get noticed and to get signed is to do all kinds of high-flying, death-defying maneuvers, and that emphasis on crazy spots often means that basic storytelling takes a back seat. The way I see it, crazy spots and high flying in wrestling is kind of like eating a bunch of candy. It's great at first, but in the long term it can be bad for you. It's the law of diminishing returns. You can make the crowd pop huge with a big flying move early in the match, but what happens after you hit another, and another, and another, and another, and the match still isn't over, and by this point the fans are more blown up than the wrestlers. The whole point that guys like Rip Rogers is trying to make with the no-fly argument is if you're going to do big moves like that, they should mean something. They should be part of the larger story you're trying to tell in the ring, not just be transition moves or one of 8 false finishes in a match. If you watch Raw and SmackDown every week, you see no fewer than 5 or 6 suicide dives every Monday and Tuesday. It's become as watered down of a move now as the DDT or the super kick. Less is more. So when big flying moves and high spots are just small blips in an otherwise larger match, you have to work harder and harder down the line to get the crowd to pop during those parts of the match when they really matter. It takes more and more stuff now for guys to go down for the 3. Are wrestlers really that much more resilient these days, or are the moves weaker? And here's another big part of the debate that a lot of people seem to be overlooking. Do you know what most older wrestlers have that a lot of younger wrestlers don't? Pain, and lots of it. Some of these guys have wrestled for 10, 20, 30 years taking what are essentially very basic bumps, the things that today's wrestlers and fans often scoff at, and they are hurting. So imagine what happens when you're wrestling for 3, 4, 5 years taking crazy spots off the top rope and onto the floor. What do you think happens to the body then? These old-timers who are getting mocked today online aren't just bashing the high flying because they think it's getting watered down. They're doing it to warn the younger wrestlers to take care of their bodies. The more you do crazy stuff in the ring on a regular basis, the faster your body breaks down and the sooner you have to retire. Will Ospreay is a broken down man at the ripe old age of 24, and unless he drastically changes his style, I'll be amazed if he's wrestling by 34. In my opinion, if the younger wrestlers kill themselves every week trying to pop the crowd, they won't have lengthy careers, and wrestling as we know it will eventually die off. It's that simple. I can remember a time when most wrestling fans wanted to see more and more violence, more bloodshed, more chaos. Now thankfully, most of that bloodlust has left the mainstream, but now it's been replaced with the need for more insane acrobatic maneuvers that, if performed the slightest bit incorrectly, could paralyze somebody. And let's be clear, a lot of the blame for this culture falls on WWE. You see it in how they build their matches, when they go to commercials, what happens when they come out of commercials, etc. Like it or not, WWE is the standard bearer. They dictate the big trends in pro wrestling, so lots of people in the indies want to emulate that style. However, lots of the wrestlers and matchmakers in the company today come from that indie scene, so the wrestlers are influencing the evolution themselves. It's a feedback loop. Like I said earlier, I love high-flying moves. I love big spots. Those definitely have a place in professional wrestling, but I'm also saying they need to make sense with the story and should be doled out judiciously to obtain the maximum response from the crowd. That way, the crowd is invested without killing them, and the wrestlers can wrestle longer. Everybody wins. With WWE and New Japan seen by many as the top 2 global promotions, I believe the responsibility lies on them to start to gradually tone down their styles in the ring and make less mean more again. Yes, I know that sounds insane. I'm not saying it would be an immediate night and day transition, but if they begin to scale things back bit by bit, I believe over time these goals can be accomplished. But ultimately, this is just one man's opinion. I believe that wrestlers can wrestle how they like, Fans can like what they like. I don't want to join in the whole us versus them mentality that's dragging this debate down. I don't think you should put down other styles to put over stuff that you like. That never ends well. But I do think that we as fans deserve to have our favorite wrestlers work for a long time, and those guys deserve to have long, fulfilling careers. But in the case of some of those guys, something has to change. Because if this generation believes that dives are more important than headlocks, then I believe this business will suffer. So what are your thoughts on the issue? Are you team dive, team headlock, or perhaps team diving headlock, somewhere in the middle? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.